are talking with Dr. Tom Granoff, and he is showing us some resources, and I asked him to share his Pinterest profile because there is a lot of really good information here that he has collected over the years. And so he's kindly going to just walk us through a couple of pieces, and then I'll include the link in the description for you. So give us the tour.
All right. Hi, everybody. I have been creating Pinterest folders for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. I'm up to about 37,000 pins that are in various folders. I think I've got about 60 folders. The ones that we're going to talk about today, I have about 20 folders that are related to different aspects of qualitative research. Awesome. So let me go down to there. Before we get into this, if you just sign up for Pinterest, which is free, and in the search you put Tom Granoff, you will come upon this. Everything is free. I just compiled it. I did not create any pins on here at all. So as I was telling Rebecca, because it's the internet, there's everything from the profane to the profound. So so most things are correct, some things are not. So you have to, be careful with that. But I like to think of this as a giant brainstorming list.
Yeah, and for sure.
You can go through this and go, nope, nope, nope. Hey, this is pretty good. Nope. And so, but there's a lot of things in here. I'll just cover the ones that are dissertation related on the way down. Academic writing, I've got 615 pins. Boundaries and codependence might be useful when you're working with your committee. I've got 1,100 there. Conflict in human relations, I've got about 2,100 pins. Leadership principles, I know a lot of you are doing like doctorates in organizational leadership. I've got about 1,500.
That's great.
But let's get down to the qualitative, and I'm going to specifically spend a little bit of time going through the one of qualitative versus quantitative, because that's often people try to understand what one or the other. And I've got 378 pins that are somehow related to quantitative and qualitative. Now, I will just say up front, there are some duplicates, because what I would do sometimes is I'd just spend an hour or two just going through Pinterest, and they would give me prompts, and I just say, oh, I'll put this here. Oh, I'll put this here. So it might be that they give me the same thing, or maybe maybe more than one website uses the same pin. So we'll just look at the one here related to deduction versus induction. And that's a common thing for deduction, tends to be more the quantitative tradition, sometimes called top down.
Right.
Where you start with the theory and you make some hypotheses and you observe through stats or whatever, and then you come to a confirmation. So this is the quantitative approach for a dissertation, where qualitative is what's referred to as, I can even say it here, bottom up, where you start with just observations or interviews, and then you code and you draw themes and patterns and a tentative hypothesis, and eventually you develop a theory.
Right.
So bottom up is what's referred to as inductive, top down is what's referred to as deductive.
All right. And then when you click on that pin, it'll actually take you to the website that has has this graphic on it and potentially more information and or references. Great.
Oh yeah, it's as I may have said in some of the other videos, probably one of the most important things that I have found is that it's easier to recognize than it is to recall. It's easier to recognize than to recall. If you think about tests in school, multiple choice and matching are easier than fill in the blank and essay. And often what we try to do is, well, let's see, what would be the characteristics of leadership? Well, you can go to a list like what I have here for Pinterest, and you can get a lot of the theories that are in there very quickly. So because it's easier to recognize than to recall, how I've gone about it is I've created huge lists. And that was the genesis of why I created these Pinterest boards. So I'd have things available to be able to do it. Let's do one more quantitative versus qualitative here.
Okay. Okay.
So, positivism is more the quantitative, statistics, surveys, questionnaires. Interpretivism, qualitative, observations, unstructured interviews, things like this. So this is yet another one that talks about the difference between the two of them.
Yeah. And I love that there's images that kind of help you quickly compare and
Yes.
decide if you want to go dig further, or you can look at it and go, okay, that's not really what
Right.
I'm looking for, what I need right now.
I teach qualitative research methods, and one of the assignments I have them do before we have our first class together is I have them spend 1 hour and say, go to these Pinterest boards, and for each of the 5 traditions that Cresswell talks about, case study and phenomenology and grounded theory and narrative, and I'm missing the 5th one here.
I am no.
And then mixed or comparison of the design. So we've got those 6 there. Spend about 10 minutes on each of those. Just look through the graphics here and copy and paste into a cheat sheet. So now you have, when they talk about phenomenology, let's just kind of look real quick. So for phenomenology, you just look at, this is looking at conflict, which is an important thing for phenomenology. So there's different kinds of conflict. So if you're trying to build coding structures, it already provides something for here. So you may want to put that
interesting.
We've got different kinds of questions here. Getting to know someone better. Some of those may be helpful for you when you're doing putting your interview structure. So if somebody's angry below the surface, these might be the actual things that they have. So what's helpful for something like this is when you're doing your preliminary coding, again, for example, I often use the example, so you're looking at the lived experiences of people that were fired in a hostile takeover of their pharmaceutical company. So if they say they're angry, there's probably some other emotions there as well. So what you can do is you can print out this sort of a graphic. There's a couple things. One is you could hand this graphic to the person and say, pick the 3 or 4 that best describe your feelings. And then, so you start with that and say, oh, you said you felt inferior. Please tell me more.
Interesting, yeah.
So instead of saying, well, how'd you feel? Well, I don't know. If you give, again, it's the idea of recognize instead of recall. So you have them pick out a few, and then you ask, well, tell me more about that. Now you can get a nice fat flavor quote for your study. Further, when you're doing your preliminary coding after you've gotten your interview, if you have a list like this, you can just check mark the ones that they said. So that does your first level code, some of your first level coding right there.
That's awesome.
So this is phenomenology.
Yep. This is great. This is a lot of work that you've done that a lot of us are trying to do to really understand things a little bit more, but it's a quick resource that you can, look through and use to help you plan out your study, plan out your thinking, do your coding, find additional resources. Lots of good information in here.
Thanks.